I think Hardik has something to play, so I will hand it over to our Division S Director, Hardik.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our keynote speaker, the Chief Marketing Officer of IBM India and South Asia, and a podcast host, Deepali Nair.
Back to you, Sapna.
Thank you so much for that. Hardik, just a quick confirmation. Am I audible and am I visible? There's no lag.
There's a little lag in your video, but we can definitely believe.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much for that. Welcome, Deepali. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you for having me here and for that. Okay. Thank you for that 30-second little AV, Hardik. So cute. So Sapna, back to you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Deepali in the house today. As you all have already seen in the video, she is the Chief Marketing Officer for IBM in India and South Asia. She's also a podcast host to a successful series called Being CEO with Deepali Nair. A little bit more about Deepali. With over 2 decades of experience in sales, marketing, e-commerce, and managing P&L, Deepali is especially known for her digital business acumen and running operations for digital sales. She's won numerous awards over the years and has been on Impact's list of India's 50 most influential women 3 years in a row. That's from 2018 to 2020. Based out of Mumbai, Deepali enjoys teaching and has mentored MBA students at top management institutes. She also mentors women-led startups. She spends her commuting time on social media and she's very active on Twitter. You can go ahead and you can follow her on all her social media accounts, which I already did. So welcome once again, Deepali. Wow. So much that I have got to know about you in personal interactions, or even when I went through your social media accounts. So from being a chief marketing officer to be an acclaimed speaker, to be a teacher, to be a mentor, and to be a podcaster, what is the common thread between these roles?
That's a tough question, Sapna. But okay, I'm gonna ramble a bit. But yeah, I think one of the important cornerstones of my success there is very cliched answer, which is communication. But when I use the word communication, I don't mean what most people consider to be communication. Most people think that how you communicate, the style, the pronunciation, your stage presence and your charisma, all that, that I take for granted. But I think what is common between all these roles is really how you process information and storylines that have happened in the past, and how do you ensure what is the distilling that you do for somebody else who you are either dropping an email to, or you're writing a tweet, or the messaging you want to do through your podcast. I think there is a strong sense of reflection that I do when it comes to what I want to communicate. And I think that is a extremely important part, and I think common between all the roles that I do, because I know that I know that there is a sense of accomplishment that I have because I tend to do this well. Most people know that I write my emails very well, for example, and that they are tailored. It's not the same email that I will send to my boss or to my team, or to somebody else. They are tailored very well. Second, when you're talking about communication, is having a point of view. I find that most people shy away and are not courageous enough to have a point of view. It's all right sometimes to not have a point of view on certain topics, but if I'm an expert in the domain of leadership and I'm hosting a podcast, if I'm a expert in the domain of digital marketing, if I have been, mother to a teenager, or if I'm, let's say considered an expert in, personal branding, then I ought to have a point of view about all the issues that are there. I could be wrong or I could be right, but I think having that courage to have a point of view is extremely important. I find a lot of people shying away from having, a point of view. Yeah, of course, I'm not saying that the charisma, the stage presence, the speaking ability, and the style is not important. I'm not taking that away from anyone. I'm just saying that's become table stakes, that's hygiene, and everybody ought to have it. But these two things of thinking through your content, your stories, the storytelling part of it, and then second, very important, having a point of view, is probably what is common across the success that I've achieved in all the 4 roles.
That's something to know, and I think sometimes that is a point of view very, very important for all right. So moving on to my second question, Dipali. This is something to ask. Most possibly I come across. So we've heard that behind every successful others her back. So apart from your mother, please tell us about the women influencers in your life.
Yes, I'm going to repeat because I could not hear you well, but I think what you've asked me is that apart from my mother, who are the other women who've influenced me? I put it down on
Yes.
chat also. Yeah, okay, good. I heard your yes. Okay. I hope that the audience is able to hear me well, and I would request some of them to put it on the chat so that I know that you guys are able to hear me well. Otherwise, if you want me to speed up or slow down, I can do either. Okay, great. Yes, everybody's saying audible. Okay, so I think 3 or 4 women come to my mind. One is my school principal, and she was also my civics teacher, Mrs. P. Paul. She really encouraged me and had a great influence in the confidence levels that I have in myself. I was in grade 7 or 8, and typically the school debating team would comprise of, only grade 9 and 10 students, and most importantly, in fact, 10th grade students, because they were senior, and these were impromptu debates where you needed to think on your feet and so on and so forth, that you would go for to represent the school in some, Rotary competitions, road track competitions, district, competitions, and so on and so forth, she went out of her way, to select me, despite being, an 8th grader, to be part of the school debating team. And she had that confidence in me. I did not have it. I had never even thought that I would make the debating team at such a young age. The first time that she took me out, I still remember it was a topic about, presidential or form of government, and she was our civics teacher also. So she did help me prepare on the topic. And not only did our school team win the debate, but I was adjudged the best debater, despite being the youngest, in the district. And she brought me home. She, my mom doesn't understand English. And, she came to drop me home, and she came to tell my mom, what a great job that I had done. And she asked my mother, and she said, have you ever heard her speak? She speaks like Indira Gandhi, who was our prime minister, that time. And my mom, of course, said, no, I've never heard her speak. I haven't had the opportunity. And next time when there was a school thing, she invited my mom over. So that brings me to the second person, because Mrs. Paul actually mentioned Indira Gandhi, who, I am not going to go and talk about her political ideology. One is not talking about what she did as a person or what her political ideology was. But as a speaker, she had great stage presence, she was very charismatic, and that is something I drawed upon. So that's one person. The second was from my early working years. This was Anita Bogle. She's Harsha's wife, by the way, and is a co-author and a co-presenter with him in a lot of things that they do. And one incident, again, to tell you, where I, earlier mentioned the content bit, I still remember we were supposed to make a presentation to the client, and we had lots of insights, but we didn't know how to structure them together, and we went to her and we said, Anita, this is in my early years, this is my 6th year of working, okay? I said, Anita, Anita, we can't structure it. We don't know how to structure this so that it looks like, something coherent that we are presenting. She said, okay, leave this with me. And I think next morning when she came to work, she had the presentation pat. She used the structure, which is, now everybody knows, myth and myth busting. So myth 1 and then myth busting, myth 2 and then myth busting. She had a structure for us. So that incident just stands out in my mind, that you can actually, if you put your mind to it, you can figure out a way to tell your story, even if it is disjointed, 10 facts. So that's the second person in terms of what I learned from her. And third is my role model and my favorite, which is Oprah Winfrey. I'm just in awe, of everything that she does, how she leads her life, how she's led her business to quit at the top of her game, when she had a network show, and to start a digital online company of her own. The books, her philosophy, of course, the way she talks and interviews people, she's a complete role model for me. But yes, Mrs. Paul and, Anita Bhogle are two people who one-on-one have taught me, such a lot and filled me with confidence.
Thank you so much for that. That's like a lovely line of ladies, is what I would say.
I'm lucky.
Absolutely. I'm sure you are. Moving to our next question, Dipali. So we've heard this term, making equality matter in today's time. So with inclusivity being the main theme in today's time, in working environment is what I would say. Do you think women still face inequality at workplace?
You're putting an assumption there that they weren't considered equal earlier. Okay. I think I will take refuge in the book that Sheryl Sandberg has written, Lean In. I recommend that to everyone. I recommend that to men and to the women. Men because they have to lead women, men because they will have sisters, men because they'll have daughters, and it's an extremely important, book for understanding what happens to women at work. And the one thing that it talks about is that there is a silent bias. It's not an active, it's not an explicit bias that women have to deal with, because for years and years, there are certain roles that we've had, for example, it's the reverse bias that a man would face. If you were to go into a family and the guy was to say, I've cooked the meal today, you would have a doubt in your head, okay? Not knowing whether, he's the better cook in the family or not, you would have a silent bias wondering what kind of food am I getting today, right? It's the same kind of silent bias that women have to deal with. I have exaggerated in the stereotyping that I have done of a guy who cooks in the kitchen. But I think a lot of the times, for example, there are stereotypes, women aren't good at numbers, or women aren't good at technology, and things like those. So there are those silent biases that you deal with, but they are silent, okay? Second is, what you have to deal with is patronizing behavior, which is great when you're a younger, woman inside an organization. So I think it's great for younger women when they're entering the workforce, because, people are talking D&I, people are talking about women at work and careers and so on and so forth. But I think once you're a senior woman, I don't say this. I work for an organization, today, IBM, which is one of the world's most diverse and inclusive, company, awarded many times over. We have, many, many women in CEO roles there. Our outgoing chairman is a woman, However, you just look at the Fortune 500 numbers and you look at how many women there are, women CEOs there are. And I think the glass ceiling exists. You look at the women independent board numbers that you're supposed to have in India and that you don't have enough, and that companies are paying penalty for that. I think the numbers speak for themselves, right? Now, what exactly is the reason? How to correct it? I don't think today's session of 20, 30 minutes is going to be enough for that. But I think the world is a much better place, though. When I started working, there was nobody who spoke about diversity. There was nobody who spoke about, inclusion. D&I as a word didn't exist. You did not have HR teams being measured on D&I, right? Having said that, I think there are other two things that I also want to speak about, which is, what do we do as women, which is that we come into the workforce, and because of the way we've been brought up and grown up and the role models that we have around us or not, okay, we don't have the same sense of entitlement, okay, that we ought to have. we don't give ourselves as much credit as we ought to. And it's a difficult one. I know this. And yet, I don't think I'm there in terms of, being able to consider myself to be, deserving every time that comes my way. I still treat it with a sense of doubt. There's a classic one, for example. They say that when your boss calls you in and says that here's a new job for you and this is an addition to your portfolio, you should never say, oh, can I do it, etc. Never show doubt, right? I did that exactly a couple of years ago when that happened to me, right? So I kind of know this, but you don't know how to, get away, from it. So I would really recommend reading the book Sheryl Sandberg. Some of the examples are my own, but, the belief systems she explains extremely well. I don't know if I've answered your question, Sapna, but I'm assuming this is what you wanted to hear.
To hear about the silent biases. I go through that myself. I do that as well to my male friends who actually, when they come back, they tell me what they know how, and I'm so yeah, thank you so much for that insight. One last question for the session today before I move to a fun section with you, Dipali, which is what triggered the idea behind being CEO with Dipali Nair?
Okay, that's a fun question in itself because the answer is fun. So for the last 3 years, I've been, researching on this topic, that when CXOs transform themselves and become CEOs, the journey that they travel, what they have to unlearn, relearn, learn. The idea was that I will eventually get to write a book on it. And the first idea that I had was that I would conduct interviews. Okay, somebody who needs to go on mute. Thank you, Monish. Okay, so the first idea that I had, and I had almost spoken to a business magazine that I would, do these interviews and publish these interviews. And you procrastinate. These are not things that you necessarily need to do in your life, right? So you procrastinate and you don't do it. And my first CEO, I'd spoken to him somewhere in the month of September last year, and I said, I'm going to be doing these interviews. Are you game? He's my batchmate, Sanjay Bahel, and he said yes. Okay. And then I didn't do anything about it for 6 months. And what you do when you meet with friends, you crib about it, and you say, oh, I haven't done it. I haven't found the time. Now pandemic is hit and how will I do it? Okay. So I cribbed about that to Sri Raman, who is the co-founder for Awaaz.com. And he said, Dipali, don't crib. You don't need to now write. You can always convert this into a podcast. So he really, seeded the idea. And Sapna, to go back, remember, I'm not that confident kind of a person, who says, oh, really? Can I do it? Yeah, let me do it. No, I'm the one who says, can I do it? Right. And the idea stayed with me and I did nothing about it, okay? But I had this little habit of sending voice notes to people on WhatsApp, right? And one day, somebody that I know wrote back to me saying, Dipali Mangeshkar. And once again, I, doubted that. And I thought maybe he felt bad. Maybe he's being sarcastic. Maybe this is a comment that, what do you want? What do you think of yourself? So I actually called that person and I said, why did you write Dipali Mangeshkar? He says, because I think you've got a fabulous voice. And I was like, really? No, I don't think so. I still didn't believe this. I went back to my mother. Okay. And I asked her, I said, do you think I have a fabulous voice? She reminded me of that Mrs. Peepal incident. Okay. And then I called up my brother also and I said, do you think I have a fabulous voice? And he said, yes, of course. I said, you guys have always told me that I do a good job on stage. Nobody has told me that I have a fabulous voice. Okay. And my mom goes like, by the way, so what? If we haven't told you, what would you have done? And I actually, that is the first time I told her, I would have been an RJ on radio had you told me this earlier. But that was just to, do chubby to my mother. But, that really is the story. So, the gentleman who triggered this whole Dipali Mangeshkar thing, I'm truly indebted to him. Sri Raman, who put the idea into my head. And then once again, we did like a guinea pig recording with Ajay, who works with Awaaz. And then again, I procrastinated and I sat on it. Okay. But this time the Awaaz team really pushed me and they said, we've got a good idea going. We give you all the controls that you want. You have the complete editorial control. Let's just do it. And, eventually it has happened. It's already won 2 awards. This Friday at Ink Spell, we won the Gold Award for the best business content. In a radio or a podcast. Okay. So I am really delighted, at the age that I'm in, it's like a little baby that I have now. So I'm really excited. So thanks for asking me that question, but that's how it happened. Okay, Sapna, you're on mute. I can't hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, don't go on mute because I think the host will not allow us to. Yeah. Thank. I think that was amazing. You should have, trust me, you have a beautiful voice and very energetic. I mean, it's a pleasure listening to you. You bring that chirpiness and that happiness and that energy, and it's really nice. Okay, so are you ready for some fun round?
Yes. You know, I do this to my guests. You know, by the way, I do this rapid fire to my guests on my podcast, by the way.
Okay, I'm going to do this to you because I wanted to know, Dipali, a little more beyond what I read in your bio. Like it was one page long. So I said, I want to know a little more about you. All right. So we quickly finish it off in like a
Sapna, I've lost
so
your
let's
voice.
start. Your favorite food?
Golgappe.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Golgappe.
Your favorite time pass?
Anything and everything, but listening to music, reading a book, dancing, too many things.
Okay, so one prank that you played recently on someone?
No, I'm not a prankster, but I think I did give a surprise to my son on his 16th birthday. He had not imagined, but we put an ebook together for him with letters from his friends and family and with pictures right from his childhood. So that's a little surprise that I recently did for my son. I don't play pranks, no.
Did he get embarrassed? Out of happiness, or was he embarrassed in what you did?
You know, to us,
because the answer will decide if it was a prank.
Yeah, so you know, we all had a conversation the previous night that he's not the kind who would like it. But it was just family when we presented it to him, and he was quite delighted and he thanked us. For a teenager, he came and hugged us. So it went really well.
Awesome, that's great. Okay, so if you had to do another podcast, what it would be?
You know, there is a thought already that I have. I want to do a podcast in Hindi, by the way. Kabir is my favorite poet, and I want to do something on Kabir, but let's see whether it pans out or not.
That's amazing. Hardik had a little smile on his face. Editing place the most ideas at?
My bed.
Okay. What is your fear factor?
I am very scared of snakes. Even snakes coming in my dream scares the shit out of me.
Right. So if you were not a marketeer, what was your second career choice? And we will leave being the podcaster.
Okay. I think I would have probably done something in theater because I have done a theater course, and even when I was at college and at school, I was always on stage. I have done 10 years of professional Kathak dance, not professional, sorry, 10 years of training in Kathak when I was younger, till the age of 15. But yeah, probably that's something that excites me. I don't know, or a jewelry designer. I'm very fond of jewelry.
Okay. So what are you bad at?
Sorry, what am I bad at?
Yes.
I'm bad at cooking.
Okay. So what is your OCD?
Time. I have to be on time. I expect people on time. I have everything to have in my calendar. I'm a slave to my calendar. I think I have an OCD about time.
All right. One last question. Okay. If you wanted to have a superhero skill for 24 hours, which one it will be?
To be able to be invisible. You know that Mr. India, Anil Kapoor thing? That's the superpower I want. You know, imagine, so much, imagine I wouldn't need to pay for my travel. I could get into aircrafts and go anywhere.
All right, thank you so much. That was lovely knowing more about you. We have questions out here. I'm going to quickly ask you the first question that was sent that we have. So, 3 most important things that you realize after becoming a CEO. maybe your learnings that could help us?
So I haven't yet become a CEO, but from all the learnings that I have from the guests that I've had, one is your health is extremely important, and maintaining your energy levels is extremely important. Okay. People tend to ignore health in the younger years. That's one. Second, be a lifelong learner. That's something I believe in. I've done a blog on my LinkedIn. It's about learning agility. So if you search for it, you will find it. But almost all CEOs that I have had on the show, talk about learning. And third is time. Can I tell you this? Today was my 20th recording, okay, 20 CEOs. Not a single one of them has come late. Forget being late. If they were given a time, they were all logged in 5 minutes ahead of the recording. Okay, this is a record, 20 CEOs. You would imagine that CEOs are very busy people. They will take things for granted. They will go late. Everybody will wait for them. No. Okay, so just these three qualities that I noticed. Learning, being on time, and keeping your energy levels high.
Very nice. Thank you so much. Our next question is, which was the most difficult task you have faced till now in your role with IBM?
When I took over the role at IBM, we have something called the employee engagement scores. In my first 3 months, there was a survey that was done, and the employee scores were really low. They were all in reds. So you're measured against the IBM benchmark, you're measured against the global benchmarks, external benchmarks. They were just below all kinds of benchmarks, and they were red. So building the right culture in the team, creating engagement with the organization and with the team, I think that was the most difficult task I faced. I've been successful at it, by the way. We turned green. But that was the most difficult one. And it was new to me. That's also the important thing.
All right. I think that's a tough one. Do we have any more questions from the audience?
We are losing Sapna in between. I agree. I think somebody's mentioned that, Srinivasan. I agree with you. We are losing Sapna in between, but I can still make out what she's saying.
I'm really sorry about that. So I would request the Zoom master, if you can, anyone in the a question to Dipali. One last question before.
Quickly help you, Sapna, on that. There's a question by Pragna here. Any mistakes you did professionally so far, and what to share with us so that we learn from you?
Oh, I think when you're younger, you make plenty of mistakes. I think they're not even mistakes. In hindsight, you would still have gone and taken the same decision because you had limited information, right? And I think the idea is that you reflect. And if you actually have a coach who you can reflect with, you learn from all your mistakes. So one side is the behavioral mistakes that you end up doing. You might end up losing temper. You might end up making a comment which is not right. And you learn over a period of time. As long as you learn, those are okay mistakes to make. I think second is from a work perspective. Now, that's where I say that your mistakes need to be fast, many, and small. Okay, you need to learn how to measure everything that you're doing, especially when you're in marketing. And if it's going well, scale it up. If it's not going well, be very dispassionate and kill that lovely idea that you had of doing anything or your team had, So ensure that your experimentation is very fast and very small. That's my suggestion, advice, whatever. Lots of mistakes I've made.
One last, if you're able to hear me clearly, what makes you motivated to keep going ahead?
My monthly salary check. No, jokes apart. No, jokes apart. I think there is a degree of reflection that I do, which is the distance that I have traveled. Where I came from, a small city upbringing. A very middle class, economic background, a genre or an era where women, may not necessarily have even got a proper education, so gratefulness of the education that I've had and the dreams that my parents had, and my mom's dreams for me. I think those are all factors which keep me going motivated. And then the little successes that come, I enjoy them. So I am jubilant about the fact that we've got these 2 little awards for the podcast. I am, truly enjoying that. And these are the kind of things that keep me going. I enjoy the appreciation that comes my way. I enjoy self-motivation too. So if I feel that I've done a good job today on the podcast, doesn't matter to me whether 5 people listen to it or not, or whether 10 people like it or not. But if I think that we did a great job on this podcast, that itself, is satisfaction for me. That keeps me going. But so a lot of reflection and a lot of gratitude, for what things have done for us. And just now, I mean, just that factor that, we are all healthy, safe. I think my prayer throughout this Diwali season has been, let Goddess Lakshmi make Earth COVID free. And I think just that keeps me going. I don't know if it is a spiritual and a philosophical answer, but yes, that's what it is.
No, I think it's really beautiful. But thank you so much, Dipali. From my side as a person, it was a pleasure listening to someone like you who is so multi-talented, and I think who's just beautiful in and out as a person. Your voice just made me smile throughout. I think Amrit this time she just had to text me and say, "Why don't you smile?" But I was smiling throughout. You have a beautiful smile, and there's a lot more to learn from you. A woman who has a point of view, who is not scared of sharing her point of view. That's important. That's what all the women out here are going to take away from you today. That no matter what it is there, just have a point of view, because that's important. Whether it's right or wrong does not, that is secondary. And what really keeps you motivated, I think the most important thing is self-motivation. You don't need anyone else's validation. If you're happy with what you're doing, that's what matters most. Thank you so much, Dipali, for being here. We at Toastmasters are lucky that we could get to interact with you. I know that 20 minutes, 25 minutes, very, very short to Dipali Nair that we would have. And I'm going to promise you that we're going to do a longer talk for you, since you love to talk and we love to hear you out. So thank you once again on behalf of Division B, M, and S for being here today, and getting to know you was wonderful. So thank you so much for that. And I hand it back over to our MOC for the day, distinguished Toastmaster Arvind Nair.
I want to thank Hardik for getting me here. And thank you, Sapna, for conducting this session. And if you guys liked my session today, then please go and listen to the podcast. It's on Awaaz.com. Or you can just Google being CEO with Dipali Nair. And do follow me on Twitter, please. Thank you very much. Bye, Hardik, and bye, Sapna.
Thank you so much, Dipali. Take care.